Okay, welcome everyone. So today is really my great honor to introduce Dr. Raj REDDY. For the people in computer science, he's really a person doesn't need any introduction. Let me just mention a few facts. So number one, he's a Turing Award winner in 1994. Right? And another thing I remember, our president received a long service award medal for her 35 years in this university. That medal was in gold. I just asked Reddy, what is the precious metal for 55 years in CMU? He's a faculty there for so many years. And AI now is very hot, right? Everybody talking about AI. But Dr. Reddy is really one of the early pioneers in AI area. He is very well known for his work in speech recognition and many other areas. And also he founded the very famous Robotics Institute at CMU. And during lunch, we have a lot of discussions. I can find Dr. Reddy is also so passionate about education. Right? So Dr. Reddy is a member of U.S. National Academy of Engineering, and he is also a foreign member of Chinese Academy of Engineering. Please come. So our university clock is slightly 5 minutes later. A lot of you coming here. And also, Dr. Reddy has actually quite a long association with our university. He was given the honorary doctor degree in this university in 2010. And another very important link, our council chair, Harry Sham, he actually did a PhD with Dr. Reddy. Right, yeah, please come. So without further ado, let's give the floor to Dr. Reddy, please.
Good afternoon. It's too hot to wear a jacket, so I left it behind. So I want to kind of walk you through the AI journey. I started working on AI in 1963, almost 60 years ago. Is it more than 60? Yeah, some number. And even then, we were working on exactly the kind of problems we're working on today: vision, speech, language, and so on. The main difference is the computers we had at that time were 1 billion times slower, 1 billion times slower than the computers we have today. Even with that slow performance, we've been able to make a lot of progress. The name artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy, my advisor, in 1956 at the Dartmouth conference. And the problem with the term artificial intelligence, it kind of conjures up in your mind all kinds of images, including a humanoid robot which looks and talks like you and me, except it's 1,000 times more powerful and 1,000 times it can think faster, and many other capabilities. And so some people have kind of said, if we have a humanoid robot which is 1,000 times more smarter than you and me, then sooner or later they will take over the world and we will become slaves. Human race will become slaves to that humanoid robot. It turns out Nothing could be further from the truth. The phrase artificial intelligence was primarily, at that time when we started it, is exploration of the question, can computers do things that human beings do? Can they speak or hear or talk and many others see and so on? And if so, what do we need to do to get them to do that? And the most common phrase we were using was intelligence amplifier. The role of AI is primarily to, primarily to enhance the mental capabilities of the human being. We have a whole discipline of engineering. The role of engineering is to enhance the physical capabilities. When you want to go 100 times faster, you build a car or a plane. And if you wanted to cross the oceans, you build ships and submarines and so on. So engineering enhances physical capabilities of human beings. And I want you to think about AI as primarily enhancing the mental capabilities of the human being. Anything we do, you can do 10 times faster, 100 times faster than currently using AI. And in that sense, they're mainly intelligence amplifiers, tools. It's a tool, nothing more than a tool. AI is nothing more than a tool for human beings to do better, faster, better, cheaper, whatever it is that they want to do. If you happen to be a tribal person in the forests of Himalayas and you use your brain to do hunting in a smart ways. And if you're a PhD designing a chemical molecule, then you need to be able to do the design 10 times faster, or do a day's work in an hour. So that is where I think we need to start from. Am I doing the right thing? Yep. Okay. Let me get to. So enhancing the physical capabilities, like crossing rivers and oceans, is where what we have been doing in the past using engineering. Enhancing the mental capabilities is the role of AI. So such intelligence amplifiers will lead to superhuman capabilities in each of us. Every engineer will be able to get a month's work done in a day. This increased productivity will lead to dramatic discoveries in every discipline, leading to availability of products and services at a fractional cost. So AI-enabled productivity, if every one of us can do 10 times more work, you can create 10 times more wealth, right? That's basically the thing. Our global GDP is expected to grow from $100 trillion to $1,000 trillion by 2040. And that in turn will improve everyone's life. As they say, rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is tell you about the great things that AI can do and will do in the next 10, 20 years, and what are the bad things that can happen because of AI. And then at the end we can discuss, we can have questions and answers, discussions about how we manage the disadvantages of the perils for human good. That is, obviously, given there are going to be problems, one view you can take is stop all work on AI. In fact, some people have suggested that, saying it's too risky, too dangerous, let's stop all work on AI. For 6 months, a year, whatever, it can't be done. The cat is out of the bag, and even if some countries banned it, not all countries are going to ban it. So basically, the three things I am very excited about are eliminating the literacy divide, language divide, and shutdowns from COVID. If you're an illiterate person, by the way, there are about 1 billion people who cannot read or write any language. 1 billion people. And they're kind of living subhuman lives. They're not benefiting from many of the technological capabilities that we are all enjoying today, and because they can't even read or write. So what will happen in the future, I'm hoping, is even if you cannot read or write, your intelligent assistant, which can speak to you in your language, will be able to guide you through the problems you're facing in life that day or that day. So just imagine, in fact, if I were one of the PhD professors here, I would ask my students to say, build an assistant, go to the village, find somebody who doesn't speak or read or write, and build an assistant so that they can do X, Y, and Z. What are the X, Y, and Z? You go to a bank and you have to fill in a form. You can't fill in a form because you're illiterate. So your assistant should read the form, should look at and saying, what is your name, what is your address, what is your gender, and all the things, and it will carry on a dialogue and fill in the form for you. Or if you wanted to be a professional, let us say you wanted to be a car driver because you need a job and you're illiterate, nobody will give you any job. The first thing you have to do is to be able to read and take the driver's license exam. And how do you do that? The question is, if you have an intelligent assistant which is whispering in your ear saying, oh, this question is so-and-so, and you have to answer it. Of course, it also knows the answer. It can answer it for you, but it's supposed to guide you through the exam. And anyway, so you can do this experiment on all the things an illiterate person might want to do, and then demonstrate an AI-enabled intelligent assistant can help people who cannot read and write and go through life on whatever it is that they want to do. They're not going to be designing chemical molecules. That's not their job. But they may want to know, I need to grow some crop. There's no rain. I want to be, and then it ought to lead them through a dialogue to get that done safely. So elimination of literacy divide. In the process, by the way, they're also learning to read and write. If I'm filling in a form for the bank, and I see in my local language, what is your name? And it flashes, and the intelligent agent tells you what it is that your answer. In the process, you're not only telling your name, but you're also learning by pattern recognition. You're not learning each letter. You see a whole symbol, and then you if you see those symbols often enough, then you recognize it. That is what happens when we learn to recognize faces as a child. What happens is, it's proven, and in fact, by psychological experiments, from the time you're born to the time you're 6 months old, you have seen about 50,000 impressions of your mother, face of your mother. So as soon as those impressions go in, and they're training your brain, and then after a while you begin to recognize the face, then it gets more crisper, and you can differentiate that face from other faces. You may see other faces, but you may not recognize who they are. But when you see your mother, that face is visible, that you can recognize it, saying, this is someone I've seen this face. And that vision, learning of an image, and then what happens with those 50,000 impressions in the learning, human learning, and it has been shown there's literally an area in your brain where there's a mother computer. It's less than one cubic millimeter in size, which has 1 million neurons which are all learning how to recognize your mother's face. And so we all do this. We probably can recognize between 100 to 1,000 faces in life. And the other faces we see, but there are not enough impressions, but we forget. And then you say, I'm sorry, I don't remember, I know you are, I know I met you, but I forgot. I don't know your name or face. So we do that. Human beings do all the time. And so the question of learning language or patterns of words would work the same way, provided you have enough impressions. And so the whole idea of eliminating literacy divide, you don't need to know how to read or write, but even if you don't, you will, over a period of time, maybe several years, learn enough language, enough patterns, you can recognize them. And that's what we do for not words or written words. That's what we do when we're driving through a city, we see a building, we recognize the building, saying, yeah, I've been through this thing. So that's the difference. So you need to begin to look at how to do this. The second thing that I think AI will definitely help humanity is eliminate the language divide. When I come to China, Hong Kong, or Shanghai, I can't read any of the things, and many times I'm presented. I'm looking at my conference program, it's all in Chinese. Right now, I can actually have it translated by taking my phone, taking a picture, and say translate. All of that requires some human effort. Later, in a few years, not only, my phone might be in my pocket or my collar, an imaging device, that is, the phone will become demodularized. It won't all be in one place. You can still have a camera in your phone, but there will also be a camera hanging off of your collar, which is connected to the phone. And what has to happen is that camera is reading my Chinese program, which I don't know how to read, and it is actually instantaneously translating it because it knows I don't know. This is where the AI intelligent assistants come in. And they translate it, so I can't still see it unless I have something like a Google Glass, which is projecting an image, which is the translated version of the program. The same is true for audio. Not only will all of you probably have AirPods, and so you can actually listen, but many of them also come with a microphone, can have a microphone. So as you speak, or if you speak in Chinese, and it's actually going into being recognized, and it may not have enough computation power in my AirPod, but it is connected to my phone, which will have 1,000 times more computational power in the next 10 years or so. And suddenly, now you have a system that can actually listen to a Chinese thing, speech, translate it, and then speak into my AirPod in English or Telugu or whatever language my preferred thing. That will happen. It's just a question of time. Most of the things, technology exists. What is missing is the human interface realizations. People, young entrepreneurs, designing a whole system so that the minute I hear something, it must recognize the language you're speaking. It could be Chinese, it could be Swahili, it could be anything, French, and translate it, and then convert it into my preferred language and speak to me. It's called speech-to-speech translation problem, SSMT, speech-to-speech machine translation. There are many systems. There is a company that's the best system in China, that's globally best, I think, iFly Tech, which is able to take conference proceedings dynamically in real time, project a translated version into English or whatever language. And that's only the beginning. We need to be able to go from any language to any language. That's what is missing. There's a huge investment that has to be made on language databases, and many of the languages are not rich enough to deserve building Swahili translator or something. And I think in the future, all of that will happen. So we'll be able to go from any language to any language and be able to have a spoken language dialogue. Not only that, if I gave you a book, you should be able to read any book in any language and then translate it and show me the same thing in my language. What does that mean? So again, you need a device that, like a camera on my collar, which is reading the page and translate it and then show it to me the same page in my local language. That means I need a Google Glass or something like that. And the reason Google Glass didn't succeed is it was too expensive and too bulky. We need to we don't know exactly what the right solution will be, but it'll happen. It might happen from one of your students in HKUST. And that's what I think we need to get to. So the thing to remember is language divide involves read any book, watch any movie. Think about, if I'm watching a television, I should be able to take my phone and put it in front of the television, and my AirPods are listening to whatever dialogue is going on, and I can listen to exactly the same dialogue with the same speaker characteristics. That's one thing that iFly Tech does very well. Speaker characteristics and synthesis, and present it in, so I should be able to do any language to any language movie dubbing instantaneously. We are again maybe 5, 10, 15 years away by realizing this thing. It requires more computational power, maybe about 1,000 times more computational power. Plus it needs appropriate devices. I'm hoping the younger generation will invent all these things, and we'll have any language, read any book, watch any movie, and talk to anyone in any language at any time, anywhere. I think all of this will happen, and I think the opportunities we have are huge. So, finally, I'm sure all of you have been through the COVID shutdowns, the worst case scenarios are not in China. It was primarily in countries like India or Africa, where they did not have even proper understanding of what they're facing. So, and I know in India what the Prime Minister did was he shut down the whole economy. One day, suddenly he said, no one can move anywhere, nothing. And that caused huge amount of grief. Because a lot of people, when you shut down the economy, a lot of people are unemployed. They're living day to day, and they had to go back to their country. They're migrated 1,000 miles away, and it was complete chaos. I think in the future we will have more pandemics. There will definitely be other pandemics in the future, and we need to figure out how we can detect and correct the situation without shutting down the economy. And the answer is already there. It's called smartwatches. And if you can monitor for every human being on the planet the heart rate, the temperature, the oxygen level, and blood pressure, and there are one or two other parameters. Right now you can buy such watches made in China for $50 to $100. But they're not that reliable. It's not easy enough. But all of that will get better. So what we need is to see what it would take for every person on the planet to have one of these smart watches. So that's very difficult, impossible. But if you look at what happened after the pandemic, the GDP of every country went down by 10 to 15%. So for example, China GDP is about $20 trillion now. 10% of it is $2 trillion. So for every man, woman, and child, for the same loss, you have $1,000 or $1,500 available. For 10% or 5% of that cost, you can give everyone a smartwatch for free. And you say, no, it can't be free. We provide roads for free. We provide water supply systems for free. Why shouldn't we provide other benefits to the society? And I think it'll cost less than 5% of the loss of GDP today. And it'll transform and so if every person has these parameters, what is your temperature? Let's just take temperature, for example. If the temperature is gradually going up, you can detect it every 10 minutes or every minute, as long as a huge amount of data, but it can be processed. And then what you want to be able to say is, look, your temperature is creeping up. You have gone from 98 point whatever to 100, and you may have some problem. The most prevalent problem in your region seems to be COVID. Therefore, it's time for you to quarantine yourself. So as long as what a shutdown does is essentially trying to stop the spread by complete quarantine. You don't need to do a complete quarantine. There's a metric called R0, the branching factor. How many people are you infecting? If you're infecting less than one person, each person is infecting less than one, then it doesn't become exponential growth. So all you want is to make sure that the pandemic is not spreading exponentially. Then everything can be controlled. There are enough beds and people get sick, they can go to the hospital and so on. But all of that requires, a societal level planning and high level decision, saying everyone will be provided a free watch, and they must wear one, and the data will be completely anonymized, so there will be no loss of privacy, and so on. So I think we will AI-based monitoring and diagnosis and quarantining will eliminate the need for shutdown, which has caused a huge amount of chaos and havoc to humanity. Okay. Then AI will also empower the welfare of the 4 billion people are at the bottom of the pyramid, and they have net worth of less than $1,000, $10,000, and they have not been helped by IT revolution. Roughly half of the population of the world is not benefiting by IT revolution. But if you had access to a smartphone, an intelligent assistant like Siri and Alexa, speaking in local languages, can enable people at the bottom of the pyramid to get the same benefits as people of the Silicon Valley. What do they want to do? They don't need all the very powerful things like airline travel and so on. All they need is things like buying and selling. Right now, what happens is, if you're in a village, your buying power is usually less than 30 to 50% for the same income. Why? Because of the small market, the retailers have to mark up the costs of all the products by 30, 40%. And so you have to pay it. But however, if you have access to a global market and online buying and selling, then you get the best price of anywhere you can get, and no matter where you're located, even if you're illiterate. All you need is to be able to, so you can empower the 4 billion people at the bottom of the pyramid to benefit and have the same benefits as highly educated people. The last one is elimination of poverty and hunger, and that technologies that we can see already on the future, like computing, energy, medicine, and are all having major breakthroughs, which we cannot even begin to predict today. And innovators with small, scant resources, you, will do startups with little manpower and achieve breakthroughs using AI-enabled productivity. And very rich people, techno-philanthropists, will use their AI and their billions to solve seemingly intractable problems. So I think there's a hope for people at the bottom of the pyramid. Better medical care, clean water, nutritious food, personalized education, and so on. So now, here are the kinds of things we can already imagine AI will do and help the society. Now I'm going to go to the perils and hazards of AI. Now each of you have to decide, are all these benefits, breakthrough benefits to society, worth the risks? To give you an example, in 1920, the automotive technology was cars were just being introduced, and there were no such things as a driver's license. You didn't have to, anybody can get in the car and drive anywhere they want at any speed they want. And very quickly people discovered there are some problems. There were accidents and people were dying and so on. So there's a regulation saying, if you're going to be driving, you must have a driver's license. In order to have a driver's license, you follow all the rules, and only after you pass your driver's test can you drive. Even with all of those, Today, we have 1 million people globally that die on automotive accidents. 1 million people. In China, I believe it's close to 200,000. In USA, it's close to 40,000. In many other countries, it's much worse. And so, what we need is to see the problems and then say, how do we regulate? I won't talk about guardian angels and so on. How do we regulate the thing? The first thing that will definitely happen, if each of us can do our job 10 times faster, I can do 10 times more jobs, I only need 1/10 of as many engineers. So what are the others going to do? And the hope is each of us will work full time and produce 10 times more wealth, global wealth. And the main difference is it cannot be on things that are where there's a surplus. So you need to identify demands, needs that are not being met, and figure out a way of training people to do those things. Right now, you cannot say all of us have everything we want, including even, I might want a more expensive car, electric vehicle. I can't afford it right now, but the question is, if you can make the electric car 10 times cheaper because the productivity, then I can afford it. So there's a whole set of interrelated economics that will come to play in how the jobs losses can be handled. But there's an immediate problem. Supposing it's not just AI, it's not just job loss. If you do something disruptive, like you make a treaty moving all the jobs from US to Mexico or Canada, or the same is true within China, if certain jobs are lost, then they have to be accommodated. So we already have something called a unemployment insurance. But we need a much more comprehensive unemployment insurance to take care of the people, and that is called UBI, Universal Basic Income. Everyone gets $1,000 a month, whether you're rich or poor, and that's enough for you to survive, even if you don't have any other job. But if you're very rich, you don't need the $1,000, but you still get it. And then you spend all of it, and there's taxes on the spending and revenues and so on. So I think UBI might work, but it has to be done not only at a national level, but it has to be done at a global level. That whole process has not been done. How am I doing? Okay, I better finish in 15 minutes. So there's UBI, job losses, is a problem. We need a societal solution for this. It can be done. It's not just AI-based losses. All kinds of job losses occur. Disruptions happen all the time. At the time of Industrial Revolution, job losses happened because you didn't need manual labor for weaving the cloth. So, but those things find an equilibrium over a period of time. You can't go to somebody who's unemployed and saying, sorry, you wait another 20 years, maybe you'll be okay. So you need to feed them today. So that's where the society has to step up and do the right thing. So the second thing is self-driving car, autonomous vehicles. And what we know from research is if every car had autonomous driving capability, the number of accidents will go down by 85%. That means you will eliminate 85% of the deaths, and you will eliminate 85% of the repair bills. The potential is huge. However, if there's one accident somewhere where it was an electric vehicle, then the whole media gets all worked up, and then everything is stopped, and the states say, no more autonomous vehicles, and so the benefits are getting lost. China, fortunately, is one of the few countries where electric vehicles, autonomous driving, is encouraged and is happening. So my view is ultimately society as a whole, not just China, but all the governments should say every car that is produced should have autonomous driving capabilities. That doesn't mean it won't get into accidents. So we can change the phrase human-assisted robot driving. Not robot-assisted human driving, human-assisted robot driving. Robots are driving all the time, but occasionally if they run into a situation they can't interpret, there's a beep. They're saying, I don't know what to do, please get, and the human being has to help. It should be done, and that will have a huge benefit both economically, because right now the automotive repair bills in USA alone is $50 billion. I don't know what the current corresponding number in China is, but it's probably equivalent or more. You will save 85% of those bills. So if there is a technology that will save 80% of the deaths and 80% of the repair bills, which are billions of dollars, $50 billion or $100 billion in China, doesn't it make sense for us to adopt the technology, even though there are some risks, right? So, self-driving cars, malicious deepfakes. This is one of the things where I can't even understand. I don't have any time to make deepfakes or malicious deepfakes, but people are there, they're sitting around doing stupid things, and they post it on the web, and somebody's reputation is damaged, because even though it's undeserving. It was a malicious deepfake. That is, with iPhone technology, you can make me say anything you want. It'll sound like me, look like me, but I'm saying some stupid things or outrageous things, which will essentially get everyone riled up. And especially if I happen to be in Middle East, they'll say you're insulting Quran, and you're insulting a prophet, and therefore you must be put to death. That's what happened to Salman Rushdie. Fatwa. So, what is the solution for this? This is going to happen. Two things. One, you stop. Any deepfake can only do damage if it is widely distributed. So right now, there are social networks. The social networks are completely uncontrolled. Anybody can post anything, and in the name of free speech, the whole thing can damage some innocent person just because somebody with a grouse posted something which is malicious. And I've been thinking about what to do about this. If you think about it, 20 years ago there were no social networks. There was no instantaneous posting. We managed perfectly okay. So one idea I thought about is to ban all social networks. You can't do that. And so the issue is, what is the most minimum thing you can do that would at least give some help to the malicious posting. Supposing you said every post, whether it is X posting X some message, it may be completely good comment on something you want to make, or a malicious post. If every posting on the web is delayed by 24 hours, and we built AI agents that look through all these postings, and with occasional help of human beings, will accept all of them, or 90% of them, or 99%, because they're not malicious. The 1% are held back and are subjected to more scrutiny. And you get... So my feeling is there is no God-given right to instantaneous posting of things that we never had even 20 years ago. Suddenly, now, if you hold back something, people get all uptight. And especially if you're posting malicious falsehoods. And this is one of the things President Trump is accused of. He makes up things and posts them in his social network. And unfortunately, most of his enemies are all other politicians. Therefore, there's no damage because everybody is kind of insulting everybody else. But if you're an innocent bystander and your life is kind of damaged, that is not to be accepted. So I think in the future we need to have strong regulations of social network, including fines and imprisonment. That is, anyone that, and this has to be national and global. The other thing that you might have read about and think about is AI is going to produce killer weapons that will do indiscriminate killing. I don't think so. It can. Already the autonomous weapons are indiscriminate killing. You can fire 60 rounds in a second. So rapid fire. You don't need that capacity, but even if you had it, you don't need AI to do anything better. What AI can do is change the nature of war as a whole to kind of do what I call humane, intelligent weapons. So if I am firing a missile at an enemy, and if that enemy, if it is going to hit a hospital or a school, it should detect it. We have the vision technology to do that, and then retarget or diffuse the weapon completely. It can be done. So we need to have a movement to say every weapon that is sold or built in the future should be a humane weapon. That is, don't kill innocent civilians. In every army, in every nation's defense forces, the soldiers on the front line are completely innocent. They've just been hired and trained and saying, go kill that other person. And they're just like you and me. So, and then they might get killed in the process. So if we can find ways of, number one, identifying and making weapons that will not attack innocent bystanders, and even if you're a soldier on the enemy front, if you were to build autonomous or weapons that are, rather than killing them, then you can disable them. Disable rather than destroy. It is possible. It can be done. And that's where we need to go. If you disable, then you don't need the army still is in control. They've disabled the enemy, but you don't have to kill them. Why? Anyway, there are lots of options. We need to think about them in society. So there are a lot of other hazards: social manipulation, surveillance, financial crisis, data privacy, and so on, plagiarism for universities. So then one of the things that keeps coming up in the paper, because it's dramatic and people report on it, saying we're going to have an existential threat. And John McCarthy, the father of AI, said, to reach human-level intelligence, we need 1.7 Einsteins and 3 Maxwells and funding of a 0.7 Manhattan Project. It is not enough to reach computational power of a human brain. You also need the Einsteins and Maxwells to create the design and architecture of a child machine that can learn with experience, which is missing. Right now, if I can build a child machine with the same computing power, I don't know how to build it in such a way that it learns with experience the recognition of mother's face. What does that mean to build a machine where I'm not trying to train it? It's completely autonomous learning, like a child does, and learns with no coaching from anybody how to recognize mother's face. How to build a child machine that will do exactly the same thing. I'll give you as many images as you need, impressions, 50,000 impressions of a face. Then I want it to do the face recognition for that face. What is the nature of the architecture of the computer underlying? It's not just enough computing power. And so there's a whole set of interesting issues about this. So I don't believe there is a permanent, irreversible collapse of human civilization that will happen from AI. That's completely bogus. It may happen in 1,000,000 years. It might happen, certainly won't happen in 100 years, for sure. So the question of how likelihood is it, it's like an asteroid impact on the planet. It could happen next year, but at this point, we can't stop living because this might happen. And more immediately, if you get on a plane, it might crash. It's not uncommon. So you don't stop flying, or you don't even worry about it. You just do what you have to do, and if it happens, it happens. JAWS. And so the emergence of new species of transhuman, posthuman, 1,000 years, if ever. Okay. There are more things here, which I don't think I want to go into. So I want to leave with 2 important thoughts in your mind. First, we see the benefits on one side. We see the hazards and perils. How do we reap the benefits while controlling or minimizing the bad effects? That's what we need to do. What we don't need is to shut down AI research, which has been proposed. And I think we as a human race can do this. And whenever there are problems, it's not AI-related problems. Every technology leads to certain consequences. Some of them are not unanticipated consequences. And we need to make some regulations and make it difficult for people to do it. If you're going to post malicious fakes, maybe they should go to jail. Maybe not go to jail for long term instead of the current situation. With that, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and good luck. And what we can do, I think we have some time for questions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's really great. We have one of the greatest minds in AI, and Dr. Reddy's supervisor, John McCarthy, father of AI, and then himself has really made a very significant and lasting impact in the field of AI and also trained a lot of people. So that's a great opportunity for people to ask questions. Anyone? Yeah. Okay, just a second, the first one.
So,
Okay, Professor Reddy. Yeah, and I'm impressed. You start your AI when I was age 1. So, and yeah, it's my great honor to have the chance to listen to the legend of the AI in this in the university here. And there's a lot of insight, right? I was impressed by many things you said. One thing I feel interesting is about the killing weapon. So everybody was talking about you should not make the AI weapon. But in your view, yeah, we probably should make AI weapon, just make them more human.
yeah.
That's an interesting view. But if you think about this along the line, it's actually we're more thinking about it. Rather than preventing an AI doing something, but we want AI doing something more human and more smart. But if you think it further down, it may change all the game of our human doing. For example, war. If you produce the AI weapon, I produce an AI weapon too, and the both sides of the conflict. But then it will be AI weapon fighting with the AI weapon. But they may not kill people anymore.
Right.
So in this case, the clever AI weapon will eliminate the war,
Right.
make the war become a game.
Right.
So do you foresee all this development of technology may fundamentally change what we are thinking now,
Right.
even the human conflict,
Right.
may eliminate it completely. And if we have a war, then become a game, right?
Right, yeah.
The two people play the game, you win, you won, right?
Right.
So that could happen, right? I would ask your view about
Right.
fundamentally, may AI as technology development may change completely the concept we have now
Right.
about the war, about conflict, about even the arguments, about information change or exchange, or so on, right? What's your view on this?
Right. What you're saying is so true. I used to say this similar thing. In the future, robots will fight robots, and human beings will be in the background. But all of them require an order, societal order, where society agrees, everyone agrees, that we won't fight human beings to human being war, but we will have robots fighting robots. Or you give me the most powerful weapon you have, and I'll give you my most powerful. We'll kind of see which one wins. Those types of things, I think, are possible, should be done. But what really happens is, even if you don't have the same authority and same power, that's what terrorists do. They don't have the ability to overturn the whole government, but they will kind of go and attack one village or one person and terrorize them. That's what happened in 9/11 or the attack on Taj Mahal Hotel in Bombay. They just killed a few innocent bystanders because I don't know what they were trying to make a point, but I don't know they have accomplished anything other than making a statement. And so ultimately, we need to have a stable society, global stable society, where everyone agrees if there is a disagreement, there will be a way of resolving it. And we have two situations in Israel and Gaza, and Ukraine and Russia, where people are fighting it out, and people are getting killed, and nothing is going to be resolved. In Israel, they'll be at war for the next 100 years. They'll can't, because there's no agreement or no societal thing. So Ukraine, I think, could have been avoided again. So there are lots of things where, so if I were God, if I could disable the whole population and say, if you do anything bad, I'm going to make you into a zombie. Everyone becomes a zombie. That might happen, and that requires a superpower. Now, will AI help you to create a superpower? I don't know. I don't think so. But AI can provide tools, if somebody, to how to make tools that would essentially disable, enemy opponents rather than killing them. I think that might happen. So it's a strange world we live in, and I don't think there's any simple solution.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah. And I will reserve next question.
I just wonder, should we make an effort to slow down the development of AI? Now, actually, we already learned some lesson in the recent history that if we allow the technology develop in a very rapid phase, sometimes being driven by human desires, such as maybe money or power. For example, we learned the lesson that industrialization now is creating this so-called CO2 problem, weather change, and so on. And you can see the polarity between the have and the have-not in the world. But for the AI, is that the implication even stronger, because in the future, there may be a digital divide. The people have digital technology and people who don't have digital technology could be very, very, very far apart. Now, we also learned the lesson about the nuclear development, particularly nuclear weapon. So the problem is not the technology itself. The problem is that the human ability to handle the technology. And we need time to learn, to master the ability to handle new technology. And the human learning power is not so quick. If the technology developed, the powerful technology, like the nuclear technology, like the AI technology, it goes so rapid, and human hasn't been able to follow, to develop enough wisdom to control the technology. This could be like we are putting very powerful weapon into the hand of a child. The child develops very slowly, but the weapon is too powerful. So in that sense, should we slow down, make a effort? It has to be a universal effort to slow down the development of AI, so we would not repeat the same mistake as we let the industrial evolution going too fast. We let the nuclear weapon to develop too fast.
Okay.
What do you think?
Should we slow down AI?
Okay, I agree with what you just said. If we can get society as a whole to agree to slow down, that would be wonderful. And we have had examples of that. There's a community in Pennsylvania called Pennsylvania Dutch. They don't use cars, they don't use phones, they don't want anything. They want to live like their great-grandparents did, with purely living off the land. We have had in the history situations. Japan was completely closed to foreign visitors. They could not go in or out from around 1500 to 1840 until somebody came with a boat and shot destroyed some people and saying, you have to let us in. That's what happened to China. The Hong Kong was created because the British Navy went and blockaded the two rivers. And the emperor said, okay, well, you can have Hong Kong. So it is possible to kind of create an insular community which will be exactly what you want, right? And we can freeze the thing saying, no more technology development. We can live with whatever we have, it's good enough. The only risk is if the other country or other party or other terrorist or other, whatever, were to develop the doomsday weapon or doomsday technology or some related thing, then suddenly you are at a complete disadvantage. So that's where the current situation is. However, we shouldn't only look at the bad aspects. There was something called Chemical Test Ban Treaty. After the First World War, chemical weapons were banned. Even now, many countries have stockpiles of chemical weapons because you don't know what the other party is going to do, but they're not using it. They're very careful. The same is true with nuclear weapons, weapons of mass destruction. So there are some examples of test ban treaties where everyone agrees that they will not do this, and that doesn't mean some terrorist can't come and do it. They might do it, and hopefully the damage they can do will be much less. So ultimately, I think what we need to do is have a AI-based weapons ban treaty where everyone says this kind of weapon, just like chemical weapons or nuclear weapons, cannot be used on society, and if you do, then the whole rest of the world will come and fall on you and destroy you. Something like that. But we don't have that. Suppose, for example, Saddam Hussein used chemical weapons on Kurds and so on, and there was no repercussion other than ultimately he got thrown out, or killed. So it's up to the society, and they're trying to make regulations. Right now, AI is not at a stage where it comes anywhere close to nuclear or chemical weapon type of danger. The only deaths I know of are deaths in automotive deaths or something, or autonomous cars. And even those we're probably saving a lot more lives than the other way. Okay. So I think the society will figure it out. In the meantime, there are regulations that are being proposed. EU has some AI law, and I'm sure China will have one or whatever. And ultimately, we will have some rules and regulations, like just requiring a driver's license, and in particular making it difficult to do malicious things like deep fakes, and we also need solutions for job losses. The sooner or later, whatever technology you create will also result in some disruptive technology solutions that will result in job losses. So we need to have an answer for that.
Yep, thank you. I have one question. You skipped a few slides about the AGI, right? So a lot of debate about AGI. Right. So my question is, there are two questions. One is, do you think we are getting closer to AGI? And the second question is, are we on the right track with large language models, generative AI?
We may have AGI at some point. I have a definition that Alan Newell, my colleague at Carnegie Mellon, founder of the field of AI, used to say, to be human-level intelligent, the system must learn with experience. I don't know of any lifelong learning systems. There are deep learning systems that kind of take some data and learn something. There is no system that is learning and there are 6 other attributes I'll give you. And one of the things is human beings can do all of them simultaneously. Learn with experience, use a lot of data, operate in real time, tolerate error and ambiguity, use symbols and abstractions. And, so we have no systems that are anywhere close. And they're not, even if we had some, they're not all working together. Like human beings do all of them simultaneously. And so I'm not at all hopeful that we'll have anything called AGI for maybe 100, maybe 1,000 years. And that's what I said, at a talk in Beijing about a few months ago. I said, you will not have AGI for at least 100 years, maybe 1,000.
So not from large language models, generative AI.
No,
not from,
large language models are very important for language.
Of course,
for example, language divide and literacy
Relation,
divide
yes, all this,
require large language models. You can do them, but that is not AGI.
Yeah.
If you want human-level intelligence, you need at least these 6 attributes. Learn with experience, use large amount of data, operate in real time, tolerate error and ambiguity, use symbols and abstraction, and use language communication. So anyway, and that's not my list, it's Alan Newell's list, but I really like that.
Great, yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah. Hello, Professor Reddy. Yeah, thanks for your talk. Because you are in robotics, I have a robots question to ask, right? What do you think about our growing dependence on robots? I mean, companion robots. Nowadays, many of us are spending a lot of time on chatbot because they are very sensitive, they never get angry, they are so understanding. And also, Elon Musk is building a robot as wife. So what do you think about our future on this kind of companion robots?
Well, if you want a wife who doesn't complain, get a robot wife. but in general, companion robots are companion robots. You can turn them off completely, or if you want them only to do certain things and not anything else, like a dog. If you have a dog, a dog is not like a robot, but it might bark. If you don't like it barking, or don't like it, then like that governor of Montana did, you can shoot it. That's what she did, right? I don't know if you read about that in the news story, but in general, companion robots can be very useful when you're old and you're living all by yourself and you need some companion, so that you're not feeling completely alone. And I think there's a lot of beneficial roles for companion robots. But you and I should not be thinking about it, because I think that's what humanity is. There's conflict, there's difference of opinion, there are different ways of doing things. I want to do it this way, you want to do it that way. We go through and in life come up with a solution, which is a compromise, the notion of a compromise. Thank you.
So actually, there were several boom and banes of AI in the previous years, and now I think there is a boom of AI. Today you shared the promises and perils of AI that AI can do. However, do you think is there any like limitations or bottlenecks that current AI can tackle soon? Can you share us the like previous experience or like insight that you experienced before as a pioneer guru of AI field?
Can you repeat the question?
I think the question is now you have a lot of tools available, right? So there are a lot of limitations of the tools. Can you see any limitations? I think in particular, let me rephrase that in a different way. A lot of students, a PhD student here, they do their research. They actually want to use some AI tools to help them to do research.
Right.
But AI tools evolve very rapidly. So
Right.
how they handle in this kind of dynamic situation, they probably focus on some work, but then when you have a next version of large language model, this problem probably disappear. So you see some limitations of AI tools. You want to work on that, but the tools evolve probably faster than what we can do.
That's always going to be the case. Technology continuously improves.
That's right, yeah.
At any given point in time, let us say I'm doing a PhD thesis. I want my intelligent assistant to help me write the thesis. It may be illegal, but it might write the whole thesis, and sometimes it might be accepted, even though you didn't do a thing. And we need to. That was one of the things I had about plagiarism, and we need to come up with, at a university level, how we can control, or what it is that we want a student to know. I, for one, want them to use large language model and produce the thesis. However, it must be something that you produce. It turns out one of the things about large language models today is hallucination. They actually make mistakes. And one of the things we need to teach our students is to first give them things that are wrong automatically. And so in particular, as part of your education, you must learn to discover what is the right answer and what is the wrong answer, where there are some mistakes. And in particular, let us say you're copying, plagiarism, and you're copying some paragraph or page. Right now, there are tools which will tell you, can turn it in and so on, that you copied this from that paper. But if my chatbot is creating it, it may or may not be detectable by Turnitin. And so one of the things we need to have as part of our education testing system is to give them, as part of your exam, things that are patently wrong, to see how many of them are they able to distinguish between the correct answer and the hallucinated answer. So for example, Tom Mitchell sent me a thing about what chatbot said about me, saying, Raj Reddy is a professor at CMU. It expanded it and made up a paragraph about me. At least half of the statements that were there are wrong.
Yeah.
They said I'm a brilliant teacher. I was not a brilliant teacher. And all kinds of things like that.
Yeah. But maybe also more than that. For example, in the area, you made a lot of contributions, speech recognition, NLP, right?
Right.
I think some students, if the way they do research is now changed dramatically, right? But now this change actually comes at a very short period. If it takes 10 years, that's okay for PhD students. But if within 2 years, then there can be issues. What's
That's
your comments
okay.
about that?
Basically what you're saying is, we'll give you a PhD if you discover something new. And if it turns out, if you discover something new in 2 years instead of 10 years, because you knew how to ask the right question and interpret the right answer, that's fine. And so in fact, one of the people asked me, saying, if a computer can do all these things, why should I learn to read? I don't want to do anything. I want to go sit on the beach and let my computer do everything. That might come to be for some people. It all depends on what you want to accomplish, and not whether. And most of us are lazy, and we may in fact say, I don't want to put through all that effort. I don't need to learn integral calculus because I'll never use it in life. And so there's a whole area of learning in universities, or learning as a whole, called just-in-time learning. Rather than trying to teach everyone everything in 4 years or 5, 6 years till a PhD, you say, you have a problem, at that time, if you need to know calculus, we'll teach you calculus. You learn, because now you're motivated, you will be able to learn calculus in a day instead of taking a semester, whatever you need to learn. So that whole area of just-in-time learning in education has not yet fully developed, and we need to do that.
Okay, great. Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, I was wondering if from a business perspective, how you would characterize the current value of the market being undervalued, overvalued, or just right, and why?
I'm sorry, from a business perspective, what is undervalued?
Yes, sir. I was wondering how you would categorize the current state of the market for AI.
Market for AI. So it turns out a lot of money is chasing after AI, and they're funding all kinds of stuff. They don't know what is right or wrong. It's a hallucination. People make up some story, they get money and spend it, and then they close down. And in general, it is overvalued, and lots of companies will go down. So, for example, there's history. When there was the dot-com bubble in late 90s, they funded all kinds of companies. Most of them were good ideas, but the research has not been done. So you can't just go into a product without doing the basic research and underlying research. And that doesn't mean the ideas were bad, the proposals were bad. It's just that you need to know we're not there yet. We're not there yet. That's why it's overvalued.
Okay. Refreshment is outside already, and we will take a group photo together. But before that, any last questions? Okay, Professor Xu.
Hi, Jay. You're talking about this UBI, right? Universal Basic Income. So it seems the Canadian government is working on something, right? Let me give something like 2,000 Canadian dollars to each of the citizens per month. So in this case, do you think that Canada is ready for a very healthy development of the AI?
So there are a number of experiments being done with UBI in small communities, just to understand what works and what doesn't work. I believe I read something about things being done in Canada. There may be others also. And my own problem has been the governments are not thinking about it. Some entrepreneur that has the money wants to understand whether this will work or not, is spending the money. But most governments simply are hoping the problem will go away, mainly because they're going from election to election to election. They're not thinking in the long term. And that's what we need. We need people who are kind of visionary leaders. For a good example for me is Lee Kuan Yew at Singapore. He had a vision, and he was leader for 20 or 30 years. And therefore, he was able to build the country without any problem. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, thank you. So that's join me to really thank Professor Reddy. A lot of very good comments, insights, a lot of things for us to think. Please join me to